I could list several things I'm currently obsessed with. For one, I'm obsessed with chips and guacamole. There is nothing like watching mindless television and feasting on salty chips and spicy guac. Heaven. And I'm definitely obsessed with the beach. I mean, who isn't? A perfect day would include sun, sand, turquoise water, and definitely more chips and guacamole. I'm also obsessed with clean sheets. Not the actual washing and putting them back on, that's a total disaster. But once they're on and you climb in, there's nothing like it. I'm obsessed with them. And we use that word a lot, don't we? Obsessed. And we use it about all sorts of things, food or clothes or movie or people. What about you? What are you obsessed with right now? You could probably come up with an answer pretty quickly. Well, how about dating? Was that one of your answers? You're obsessed with who you're dating, or if you're dating, or when you'll date someone new. For some of us, we're obsessed with a certain guy or girl who doesn't even know we're alive. Or we're obsessed with the guy or girl we are dating and whether they're as into us as much as we are into them. Or some of us don't even have someone we'd like to be dating, but we're obsessed with the idea of dating. We wish we had someone to hang out with on Friday nights or someone to text with all day. We just can't stop thinking about it. If this is you, the good news is that you're normal. Dating is exciting, it's thrilling and dramatic and fun. But maybe you've noticed this, with yourself or maybe your friends, that people who are dating often change. In some ways, the change can be a positive thing. Maybe you discover a kind of music you never would have been interested in because you dated this one guy. Or maybe you realize you have an interest in specialty coffee drinks you never would have known about had you not dated this one girl. I would like a double mocha frappuccino half-calf skinny, please. Change can be positive, but it's not always positive, right? Maybe you've been in a relationship or seen someone else almost become a different person because of their obsession with who they were dating. They were like a shapeshifter, just morphing into a different person because of who they were with. That is a problem. You've seen this happen. You've seen a person who used to be sure of themselves, sure of their identity, and sure of their goals and targets in life. Then these people get in a relationship, and those goals, they change. The targets they once had for their lives move, and they move because of this relationship. And often, the relationship becomes their only target. Here's the problem. Sometimes people just stop thinking. They become what someone wants them to be. They become what they think they should be in order to keep the person they're with. They stop using good judgment. All of these behaviors are symptoms of obsession. Maybe you've seen friends do this, or maybe you've done this. And in the end, you've ended up in a really bad place because you stopped paying attention to who you really are, what is best for you, and where you ought to be going. You become obsessed and moved your target. Historically speaking, dating is a fairly new idea. Mary and Joseph weren't hitting up Starbucks or AMC movies or sending cheesy texts back and forth when they were in high school, but the idea of obsessing isn't new at all. We're going to look at a guy from Scripture today who you may have heard of before. His story is found in the Old Testament book of Judges and takes place during a really important time for his country, Israel. The Israelites were finally their own nation under the leadership of Moses, then later Joshua. After Joshua, however, the Israelites didn't have a king, so God gave them judges. Judges were rulers who made decisions that the military would enforce. The guy we're going to talk about today is Samson, and Samson was one of these judges. According to the Bible, Samson was given supernatural strength from God, but Samson also had a weakness, the ladies. Now, even if you don't believe in God or believe the Bible is true, I think Samson's story will be helpful to you and to your dating life. So listen to this. Samson went down to Timnah and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he had returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now go get her for me as my wife. His father and mother replied, Isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? It's important to know that the Israelites and the Philistines were not exactly friends. So falling for a Philistine woman was like having a crush on the enemy. That's why Samson's parents questioned his selection process. Why was he interested in this girl from the people's greatest enemy? But Samson didn't care. He had one thing on his mind: get her for me. She's the right one for me. In other words, you're not going to stop me. I'm obsessed with this girl. Now, before we keep going, we need to know that even though Samson made some mistakes, he still cared about his relationship with God. He was even described as a man of great faith. His problem was that when it came to girls, he stopped thinking. He forgot who he was and who he was supposed to become. Later, Samson chased another Philistine woman. Sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. The rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." So the drama begins. Delilah begs Samson to reveal his source of strength. Samson won't talk. Delilah doesn't give up. "How can you say, 'I love you,' when you won't confide in me? This is the third time you have made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength." With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. Maybe you're reading this and wondering, what in the world is Samson's problem? Delilah is a manipulative nag. The solution seems simple enough to us, but to Samson it was more complicated. He was obsessed. He was so wrapped up in this girl, he didn't know who he was without her. And like most people who are obsessed with a person or a relationship, the first thing to go was Samson's ability to use good judgment. He stopped thinking. He was driven by his emotions and not his logic. Samson lost perspective. In his obsession, he gave in to please Delilah. The target of his life moved from ruling well to pleasing a woman. So he talks, and Delilah betrays him, and as a result, he's captured and bound near 2 pillars in the temple courtyard, where he eventually dies alongside thousands of Philistines. Samson's story is depressing because we see a guy with all the potential in the world ruin his life because he stopped thinking. His obsession didn't just hurt him in the moment, but destroyed what could have been. If we can learn anything from Samson's story, it isn't to stay away from girls or stay away from dating. The point of Samson's story is this: thinking is greater than dating. In other words, dating is great. I'm a big fan. Dating itself isn't a bad idea, and it isn't going to lead to your dying at the hands of Philistines. But dating is only as good as your brain allows it to be. Once your thinking takes a back seat to your dating, you're in trouble. Your thinking should always trump your obsession. Thinking should win every time. Because when we stop thinking, we, like Samson, can lose sight of this one big idea. God has a plan for you. Maybe you've heard this 1,000 times, so that statement isn't as impressive to you. But let me say it again. God has a plan for you. Just you. God's purpose for you doesn't depend on who you're dating or who you'd like to date. It doesn't even depend on who you end up marrying. God's purpose for you is unique to you. Apart from your friends, your family, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or anyone else. When God made you, God had plans just for you. In Ephesians 2:10, it says this: "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This means that God made you and that God has something in mind for you. And when you move your target from God's plan for your life to a relationship or person, you risk missing out on that plan. Here's the good news. As many times as Samson lost sight of God's purpose for him, God never gave up on Samson. God heard him and still used him to do great things. Still, when you read his story, you can't help but wonder, what could have been if Samson had thought more and obsessed less? Lucky for us, we've got the chance to figure this out now and act in it. Something that Samson missed the chance to do. And we can start by doing these 3 things. First, think about why you date. What's your purpose? Dating is fun and it's good, but it won't be fun or good if we have the wrong purpose for it. It isn't a way to move up the social ladder, ignore self-esteem issues, or make yourself look good around other guys. It's a way to learn how to get to know someone and have fun. Second, think while you date. When you finally get the girl of your dreams or the guy you've been crushing on to go on that date with you, that isn't the time to turn off your brain. It's the time to start using it even more. Ask yourself what you're hoping to get from it, and if things are in a healthy place emotionally and physically, and how much of your brain time is devoted to obsessing over this person. He or she may be a great person, but is this relationship great for you right now? Lastly, think about who you date. It's tempting to want to go out with the first guy who asks you because it's a boost to your self-image. It's tempting to ask out the girl you know won't say no because you can't handle the rejection otherwise. But it's really smart to be picky when it comes to dating. It will save you a lot of trouble in the long run. The best way to do any of this is to invite God into the process. This doesn't have to be an area you shut God out of because it feels too weird to talk about your dating life with Him. He's interested, so ask for His help in making wise decisions. As you leave today, start thinking about where you are when it comes to dating and being obsessed. Who or what determines the way you think about yourself? Who is determining who you are? How much thinking are you doing about the relationships you are in? Is it wise thinking or is it obsessive thinking? What is your target in life right now? And just remember, dating is great, but thinking is better.